far from the park and just over the bridge, some of the greatest memories in sports are waiting to be shared.
I mean, it's part of a culture, and it's what makes America great. Competition, achievement, victory. It's just what America's about.
Beneath the roof and stuffed into this house are bits and pieces of Ruth and Cobb, Ali and Frazier, Unitas and Chamberlain. Unmistakable names from a boy's youth that became legends forever.
Well, sports was integral. I mean, we grew up in apartment complexes and everybody was close-knit, houses next to each other, radios blasting during the World Series. I grew up in North Jersey. That was New York country. New York Yankees in the World Series every year annually. The Giants having great football teams. And sports was like religion, especially Sundays.
Nicholas DePace, a doctor with an affliction, for holding on to the past and collecting the pieces that help make up his memories.
There was a whole romance about it. And even in medical school, I'd be studying and would take a break and would put the radio on for the scores. Part of your childhood memories need to continuously be renewed. And obviously collecting and viewing these things brings back a lot of your childhood, a lot of happy times when we weren't burdened down with responsibilities and problems. First payment being made for the sale of Babe Ruth to come to the Yankees.
This collecting cardiologist has been gathering his mementos for 3 decades.
Here's a nice one.
And has built it into one of the country's best collections.
When he played with the Giants.
And includes some stuff that you might find peculiar.
This is the wedding license, January 14th, 1954, Municipal Court. Norma Jean Doherty, a.k.a. Marilyn Monroe, to Joe DiMaggio, San Francisco. Iconic, to say the least, because this is something that bridges the sports world with Hollywood and becomes an international item of discussion. In fact, cab drivers in Africa, when you mention Ted Williams, they don't know who he is. You mention Joe DiMaggio, and they got a twinkle in their eyes and say, wasn't he married to Marilyn Monroe? So that's the whole deal about that one. Oh yeah, this is Johnny Callison's glove. That he got from Willie Mays, believe it or not. Willie Mays gave him one at an all-star game, so it's Willie Mays' glove that he gave to Johnny Callison, and Johnny used it when he played with the Phillies. This is probably, in my opinion, the most interesting Babe Ruth game-used bat. It's about 42 ounces. It comes from 1927. It's signed to Joe E. Brown from Babe Ruth. Joe E. Brown was a famous comedian, and his son became the general manager for the Pittsburgh Pirates eventually, and he and Babe Ruth were very close friends. Spectacular, off the scale. In fact, I feel like I could hit number 61 with this. It's ready to go. Joe Frazier's robe and trunks that he wore when he beat Ali in the fight of the century when they both were undefeated. The football from the sudden death game that Unitas beat the Giants with in '58 when the NFL became the NFL. I mean, that's just a piece of history. You're not smoking, are you?
No.
Recently, DePace gained national attention for reaching out to help someone who was trying to help others, and in the process captured one of the crown jewels of his collection, the hobby's holy grail, Honus Wagner's T206 tobacco card.
There was one card that had a story, probably the most fascinating of any kind of collectible piece I've heard. A group of nuns inherited this card, and probably not worth quite $225,000 in terms of its grading ability. But I was offered the card to sort of salvage a situation when the buyer reneged on paying after he got all the publicity that he bought this card. And I thought about the nuns. It was Christmas time. There was no way I was going to turn down helping them out.
DePace's love for the games and the stuff that goes with it has left him with little room to move.
Top 60 basketball players, Joe Louis oil paintings, Ebbett Field seats. I mean, you trip over all this stuff.
So he's looking to move it to a place where everyone can enjoy, somewhere safe.
Look at this vault.
This abandoned bank in South Jersey looks to be the perfect place for America's sports fans to cash in on some of DePace's treasures.
This collection has its own rhythm, it has its own heartbeat to it, and where it winds up is sort of going to be dictated on a lot of where it wants to go. You know, it's not my decision. The collection sort of has a living viability to it, a breathing, a cadence to it, and it'll find its direction, I'm sure. It just has that kind of inertia.
All of this stuff, the art, the bats, the jerseys, there's not much that he doesn't have. But for this collector, this doctor of accumulation, he found that his heart is in the right place. And sharing his game-used gifts with all of us is where he wants it to be.
These individuals became icons, they became role models, they became mythical, legendary, almost immortal by virtue of their achievements in a country that gave them opportunity.